Hey guys, today we're drawing the life of one of the scariest monsters alive, the Meatgrinder. Yes, the name itself tells a story. He's as scary as it sounds. The Meatgrinder is from the same family as the Siren. This monster resembles the famous monster Siren, so you can imagine how he looks. Tall and skinny. But the appearance and body structure of this monster is scarier than Siren. The name Meatgrinder is not for just having a scary name. He actually has two meat grinders attached to his head, and blood is always dripping from these grinders. Not only that, the blood always drips from the whole body of this monster. That's just bone-chilling. The grinders are in fact siren-shaped, which are used to grind meat. What meat? Yes, the human meat mostly. There is a mouth-like structure on the grinder. The mouth has two sets of sharp teeth on it. The meat grinder is not as tall as the Siren. He's around 9 feet tall, weighs around 100 pounds. Meat grinder is not that skinny when it comes to his body. His chest is quite wide. The body of the meat grinder is completely red in color. It looks like actual veins are spiraled across the body, going crisscross to make a humanoid shape. With blood dripping from everywhere, his hands and legs are very similar to humans, but in red veiny structure. The meat grinder's legs are slightly bent inwards. So, the meat grinder is basically a walking grinding machine. He'll attack humans physically and put them in his mouth, which is essentially a grinder. Once you're in, then there's no coming back. The grinded meat is eaten by the meat grinder, and if there's more, it's thrown away. The meat grinder preys on humans. He hunts for his survival. At the same time, he hates humans as well. So he hunts for fun also. Meatgrinder hunts only at nights. He'll hide nearby stranded highways or routes near forests to catch lonely travelers. Once he sees that a victim is approaching, the Meatgrinder will start sending scents. Yes, the meat grinder can create any kind of fragrance that he wishes. This is created through releasing chemicals from his body. The most beautiful smells will lure the victims towards him. The meat grinder knows the mind of the victim. He can read their thoughts. If you're hungry, the meat grinder might emit the smell of pizza or a fruit. It's a genuine curiosity of humans to explore, especially when you get a scent of the item that you are thinking about. This is exploited by the meat grinder. Once the victim is directed to a more secluded area, the meat grinder will appear in front of the victim. The scared victim will try to run away. Now the meat grinder will emit toxic chemicals from his body. These are essentially poisonous gases. A very little amount is required to stop the vital functions of human beings. Within seconds, the victim will either be dead or paralyzed. The body is then taken by the meat grinder and put inside his grinding machines. Ideally, he tears the body apart and puts each piece into the grinding machine. Once the body is grinded, he'll eat a portion and leave the rest. So where did he come from? Why is he killing humans? The most famous origin story of Meatgrinder is related to a meat grinding factory. The factory was owned by a steak production company. They made different kinds of steak in the factory and sold them. To make the steak, they'll grind animals, and they'll grind them alive. There was this big grinding machine in the factory, which was used to grind all the animals. But it was not exactly a machine. It was sentient. It was not just another mechanical machine. Just like how the Transformers came and became cars. The Siren head creatures who came from outer space turned into different objects to survive on Earth. Some became headlights, lamps. Some became sirens. And one became a meat grinder. Many different animals were pushed into death inside this grinder. So it was also a food supply for the meat grinder. That's how he was able to survive for so many years. He consumes a small amount of meat for the lot, so no one will notice. In a few years, the company got shut down. The factory was closed. The grinding machine stopped working. The machine found itself disoriented and fuzzy, with no food supply to keep it alive. It wanted to grind, but there was no way. It waited for a year. Nothing happened. The factory never restarted. It could not stop itself, craving for death and blood. And in one of those frustrated moments, the machine broke himself up and screamed out loud. He took the leftover flesh and bones in the factory and made himself into a humanoid creature with 2 grinders on his head, a body, and arms and legs. The meat grinder headed out to have his grand meal after so long. The meat grinder can emit any chemicals he wants. A good-smelling chemical, a bad-smelling chemical, a good-smelling poison, a bad-smelling poison, a chemical to make you feel happy, to feel sad, to feel madness, anything. This is his weapon. He can make humans feel paranoia. He can make humans feel scared or euphoria. He can control you by manipulating your feelings. The meat grinder is one scary and dangerous monster. He's invincible. He has the power to kill humans from long distances using his poisonous gases. One way of defeating him is to use robots. With robots, we don't have to worry about the chemicals. The only issue is his physical power. However, a good thing is that the meat grinder is not as powerful as a siren head or any other giant monsters. If we can destroy the grinders on his body, we're pretty much done. And it's possible in the near future to prepare humanoid robots to do this job. Let's hope for the best.